Minister, and as late as last month, you said the government should not use Hagia Sophia as political leverage. Yet you endorsed Erdogan's recent latest decision. So what changed your mind?
In fact, nothing has changed in my mind. First of all, as an intellectual, as someone who wrote a book on cities and civilizations, in which I had a lengthy chapter on Istanbul and Hagia Sophia, I am an admirer of Hagia Sophia, and it is a human heritage. And like all human heritages, it should be well preserved. This is a legacy to us, not only as a Turkish citizen, as an intellectual, as someone who respects all religious traditions. I defended, and I am always defending, to preserve this character of Hagia Sophia. But at the same time, in Turkey, it is a politically very sensitive issue for many decades. First of all, preservation of a religious site as a place of worship or as a museum will not change the main character of the building. For 481 years, Hagia Sophia was a mosque, but all the mosaics, fresks, iconas, and all the religious Christian symbols were well preserved. It was, in fact, one of the rare respect to different religions. And for centuries, in other places, you do not see that such a preservation. And now it is politically sensitive because it easily could be developed into a political crisis of polarization. In Turkey now, what we need most is to prevent polarization. Unfortunately, religious symbols became, or sometimes religious rhetoric became the source of polarization, which helped the autocratic tendencies because of the psychology of masses. Therefore, when this issue came to the agenda 2 months ago, not only me, almost all opposition parties, including main opposition party, did not oppose. We said that you should not be using this as a political leverage, trying to polarize the society, religiously conservative society or secular segments of society, etc. For last 4 years, Turkey suffered a lot because of this polarization. And the psychology of polarization became a trap for our democracy. Now, therefore, I especially criticize this language and rhetoric of using religious issues as a political leverage. But I endorse the decision because it is a court decision first, and it is a governmental decision. Like 1934, there was a governmental decision. For centuries, it was a mosque and all the Christian symbols were preserved. Now, what should be done at this moment? Yesterday, in an interview, first time ever in the last 4 years, I was in a mainstream, you know how embargo was on me. I was not able to speak to main TV channels. Yesterday evening, I was in an interview, very popular interview of Habertürk in one of the main channels after 4 years. There, I answered this question as well. 3 aspects are important at this moment. One is which type of design, which type of new organization in Hagia Sophia will be designed. Not only how to worship, how to pray there by Muslims or Christians or others when they visit, but more important is how aesthetically and architecturally to preserve the monument. So for now we have 2 weeks according to the statement of President Erdogan. 2 weeks not enough for such a good organization in the monument. So most important now is that organizational structure. The carpets, the most valuable carpets of Ottomans were always in Hagia Sophia. After being museum, all of them were, they disappeared. Now, including carpets and all the rest, and how to preserve ICONAS and all the others. We do not know the details. Now, yesterday, I especially underlined that we have to be, the government has to be very, very careful which type of management they will do in this term. Secondly, this should not be used as an issue as a political issue of polarization in domestic politics, and that was the intention. I don't know whether you followed the discussions in such a issue of pandemic crisis. There was such a development. So Turkey has many other problems of democratization, problems of absence of academic freedom, absence of media freedom, economic crisis, unemployment. This issue should not be an issue overshadowing everything what is going on in the country. Third is international aspect, where as I said yesterday, this should not be seen or reflected as an issue between Muslims and Christians, as if there is a fight between Islam and Christianity. This should be explained in a rational manner, giving necessary assurances to international community, to Christians, to everybody, that the character of Hagia Sophia will be preserved as even if as a mosque as well. We have an interest, and we have to be just in this type of cases. For example, there's a case of Cordoba Mosque in Cordoba.
It's in a sorry state.
Yeah. Yes.
It's in a sorry state.
Yeah. I visited several times. I respect the Spanish government and tradition, but that was converted to a church, not to a museum. And in 1241, for centuries, Christian mass and Christian rituals continues even today. And the architectural character of Cordoba Mosque has been changed, and the light system and everything, the miracle of Cordoba Mosque almost disappeared. And if you do not criticize that conversion for centuries, now it is not wise to make such a criticism to Hagia Sophia, where our ancestors protected all the character of the monument. Now, it is not time of a clash between Islam and Christianity. It is not a time to have more tension between East and West, or between different religious traditions. It is a time of understanding each other. Therefore, our government, I said that it is the responsibility, the main responsibility is on the shoulder of our government to explain this in a wise manner, in a proper manner to international community, that this decision will not be affecting visiting Hagia Sophia by Christians or other religious groups. Mosques are not prohibited. All the mosques could be visited. And with technological devices, the main iconas, all the Christian symbols could be well observed. So importantly at this moment is arrangements. And that's how I see the situation.
Well, you spoke about academic freedom. So my next question is about a topic that is very dear to your heart. That's Şehir University. It was founded by you in 2008 to cater to a growing conservative intelligentsia, and it has become a respectable institution of learning. Erdogan recently ordered its shutdown in what seems to be an attack against you. And you gave a moving speech after the decision in which you talked about how you and your family as pious people suffered under the oppressive policies of the Kemalist regime, and how you continue to suffer. But this time under a leader who comes from the same ideological background as you do. And many, including prominent Islamists, even say that the oppression under Erdogan is even worse than what they experienced under the Kemalists. So why, in your opinion, is today's suppression of liberties censorship, erosion of the rule of law, worse than they were under the Kemalists? Is it the ideology of the ruling coalition, or is it just Erdogan?
No, it is, I think, there is first, let me say, a universal split, not only in Turkey. But in Turkey, we have something specific. I will come to Şehir University issue from that perspective. Now we don't have ideological differentiations anymore. We are not like in Cold War, neither in post-Cold War era. Now we are in a new phase. Politics now everywhere. I don't know whether you have seen, I recently published a book, yes. Systemic World Order, Systemic Earthquake and World Order, published by Cambridge University Press in January and translated to Turkish recently. There I tried to analyze the new politics everywhere in the world. Now we are not anymore rightist, leftist, socialist, liberal. There are 5 basic differences of point. One is whether you are inclusive or exclusionary, Muslim or Christian, Confucian or Hindu, socialist or liberal. Either you are inclusive or exclusionary, exclusive. Inclusive democracy versus exclusive populism. In Turkey now we have this separation. Those who are defending inclusive democracy somewhere, there are some of them are conservative, some of them are nationalist, some of them are secularist. That is the main separation of point. Second is whether you are following a value-oriented politics or identity-oriented politics. If you are respecting to intellectual freedom, academic freedom, you are somewhere together with those who are fighting or those who you were rivaling against them in 1980s or 70s. In the case of Şehir University, why it has disturbed some people in Turkey? Because values were more important for Şehir University. And Şehir University was almost the only university where socialist, leftist, rightist, nationalist, Islamist, all of them were together under one umbrella. And that was the ideal of those of my friends who established the university. Yes, it didn't belong to me. It was belonging to a generation for the last 4 decades. We worked together to create a new intellectual prototype. Who is that intellectual prototype is not just pro-East or West, but more interdisciplinary approach. And against this identity politics in Turkish universities now, when you come, you can say, this is a more conservative university, this is more liberal university, but especially academic staff are not mixed. Şehir University was an exceptional one, where the leading social scientists like Şerif Mardin, like Kemal Karpat, like Engin Deniz Akarlı, they were teaching there as leading historians, leading sociologists, from socialist background, from secular background, from nationalist background, together with a new batch of academicians, new growing academicians. It was a very fertile climate in the sense of new approaches. Some people were disturbed because they want to have a polarized intellectual atmosphere in Turkey. For Erdogan, this was a threat because it was against his main approach to universities or academic freedom. And third is the separation of point is freedom versus security. I mean, throughout of my life, even when I was chairman of AK Party, I always defended a balance between freedom and security. And I in my new book, I underlined that the political legitimacy based on this balance. If a regime says to his citizens, I can provide you security, but you have to accept some sort of limitation on your freedom, this is autocratic regime. If someone says, okay, I can give you freedom, but I cannot provide you security, that is a chaotic regime. The most legitimate political order is where a regime or a state tells its citizens, I will provide you maximum freedom without risking your security, and maximum freedom without limiting, maximum security without limiting freedom. Now, in the case of Şehir University was based on academic freedom. One of the main issues between me and President Erdogan, even when I was prime minister, was on academic freedom. I always defended academic freedom. Sometimes I criticized certain academicians in an academic way or political way, but the most important reference for me is academic freedom.
So right on that question, I mean, you cast yourself as a democratic alternative to Erdogan, but you played a critical role in building his authoritarian regime. Universities were shut down under your watch. Hundreds of academics lost their jobs. They were sent to prison, banned from public service for life for signing a petition calling for a restart to peace negotiations with the PKK. And you were the prime minister and publicly defended the government's move. So what do you say to those who do not find your promise to build a more democratic future for the country credible?
First, let me say there are certain misinformations. I don't mean you, but general image. When I was prime minister, no university was shut down. There was no university was shut down when I was prime minister. No academic limitation on universities. Referring to my authority as prime minister. You cannot show me any academician or any university administrator that Prime Minister Davutoğlu called us and tried to and asked us to do something or not to do something. Never. I never involved to academic freedom when I was Prime Minister. And there was no university shutdown. All those universities you mentioned having linkage with FETÖ organization, they were shut down after 15th of July coup attempt. So this is, first of all, difference. Secondly, about this petition by academicians. If you go back to the discussion in Turkish political system before, I am always saying that before some people say, do you want to go back to parliamentary system before this presidential? I am saying no. We are not trying to go back to that parliamentary system. It was a spoiled parliamentary system. And today we are having a spoiled presidential system. There was no genuine parliamentary system. So the main power was given to presidential office, not only to Erdogan, before it was given to Sezer, to Evren, Demirel, etc. So there was always a dispute between Prime Minister office and presidential office. Regarding the petition, yes, there was a threat against the public order in cities, and we had to fight against that one.
But these were academics, sir. I mean, they.
I'm coming. I will explain that. And these academicians wrote a petition. When that declaration came out, my reaction was that I am against the logic of this declaration, but this is their right to say whatever they want. I never said that they committed a crime. And I openly said that I was against their arresting. The arrest order never came from Prime Minister office, and it is not logical as well. And that was one of the main difference of opinion between me and President Erdogan at that time, and that was known by public everywhere. Sometimes when you run a state, you have to act wisely and calmly. I openly said, I disagree with these academicians. I disagree with their language and their logic, but it is their right to say whatever they want. That was my position.
But so this is, sir, on January 14, 2016, you were speaking at a technology forum and you said, and I quote, "It's really very saddening that some of our academics have signed such a declaration while we are fighting terrorism. And every day we are fighting against international terror, such as Daesh, and against the separatist terrorist organization that kills civilians in dormitories, including a 5-month-old baby. We are working to secure the life and security of our citizens." So you weren't really defending their right to speak up. And just before giving the floor back to you, another example that I'm personally familiar with, here in DC, it's widely thought that the Institute of Turkish Studies, which is an independent academic organization based at Georgetown University, had its trust fund terminated based on your decision when you were Prime Minister in 2016. The organization did great work. It provided funding to American scholars, and over its 35-year life, it helped increase our knowledge of Turkey and the Ottoman Empire. And yet, you played a role in that. So that's...
Again, misinformation, Gönül Hanım. About the first statement, you made reference to my statement. If academicians have the right to criticize us, we have the right to criticize other academicians. So what I am saying that, do I say that it is a criminal act, they should be arrested, they cannot speak like this? No, I say, I disagree with them. Even today, I disagree with them. I disagree with their language. They had to respect the rights of Kurdish citizens in southeastern Anatolia in certain cities when they were suffering by PKK terrorists. They do not raise their voice. When they are digging blocking the ways, preventing them to go to schools, children, attacking hospitals. And as an academician, even if I wasn't in government, I would criticize certain issues, but in a balanced way. And this is my criticism. But I never said that these academicians should be arrested. I never ordered that. The opposite. When they were arrested, I said, this is wrong. They should not be arrested. Even before that, when FETÖ organization, for example, Büşra Ersanlı case, I openly said that Büşra Hanım I know her, she's not terrorist. So I defended academicians everywhere.
So if you were an academic, what you said you could get away with saying those things. But you were the Prime Minister, and these hundreds of academics, they have been charged, they've been sent to jail, and several of them convicted. Hundreds were dismissed, forced to resign from their jobs. So you were the Prime Minister. So that's why instead of just sitting back and saying maybe you were the one who was making policy. So
if I endorsed those decisions, I would say openly. I openly said that I disagree, but I cannot order to judicial system. If you believe in separation of powers, I am not the one who should decide who is guilty, who is not. I can only say I disagree with. I do not endorse their arrest, and I said this. But I cannot impose anything on judicial system. If I impose, then it means I am acting as an authoritarian leader.
So there was rule of law in 2016 in Turkey.
2016, from my perspective. Mm-hmm. And I disagree. President Erdogan openly supported their arrest, and I openly disagree with their arrest. And therefore I say spoiled presidential parliamentary system. The power was not purely in my hand. Mm-hmm. And an elected president, an elected prime minister at the same time. And in fact, if you check why I had to resign from prime minister position after winning a electoral victory of 49.5%, the highest vote ever in Turkish democracy, I had to resign after 6 months. If I endorsed all of these things, I could have stayed as prime minister. Why this? What was the main point of difference? One of them was the issue of freedom. academic freedom, media freedom. Another one is law of transparency. Another one is political ethics law. Another one is construction law, anti-corruption law, etc., etc. These were the main differences why I had to resign. You can ask to any democratic leader whether they will opt to resign from the office because of these principles. Mm-hmm. And Gönül Hanım, you know much better. 4 years I was under pressure. There was no any channel I could even speak my voice, raise my voice. Why did I accept this life? I could have stayed as prime minister in a autocratic, more authoritarian character. I could have stayed. Why did I resign? Why did I take so much risk? Not only me, my university, my family, my friends, all of them had to take that risk. Why did I say that? Because of these disagreements. It doesn't mean once you have in democratic societies, you do not have full power. And in Turkish spoiled parliament, I didn't have full power. If I had full power, I wouldn't resign. I would fight back, but I realized it would be impossible for me to respect my principles, personal principles, which makes politics meaningful for me. Therefore, I had to do something. I think those who are now living in Turkey, they know this difference. 4 years, I had to, I was attacked by all trolls and everybody. And the main reason was freedom of academic freedom. The main reason was transparency, political ethics, etc. If I endorsed all these things without any struggle in the system, I would continue. So I did everything possible. I did everything possible to protect.
What is the first thing? What is the first thing that you would change to build a functioning democracy? The
freedom.
very first thing.
Freedom of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Today, my new party, Future Party, in last 8 months now, and 3 months, we were not able to travel. We were at home using Zoom technology, even for party meetings. Now we organized our branches in 63 out of 81 provinces and 260 districts. And we started our congresses. And all of my deputies are on the ground now. They are calling me from every city. The main thing people want today, there is economic problem, there is unemployment. All of them are burning issues. But the most important is the fear, psychology of fear. Without changing psychology of fear, you cannot even address to the issues. In last 4 or 5 months, I think everybody agree that the direct, more open and direct opposition and sometimes high criticism came from me personally, because as a former prime minister, I know very well that if I am scared of talking, nobody can have courage to talk. Many people today in Turkey say that the most effective opposition comes from Future Party and from former prime minister. Yes, it is true. Every week I am criticizing whatever is wrong. The first thing I will change is ending psychology of fear and creating a new psychology of hope. Without hope, you cannot make any change. Yesterday in that interview, first time ever, as I said, in 4 years' time, I said, now I always believe in evolutionary change in politics, in academic life. But now in Turkey, we need to have a more revolutionary steps to be taken, especially in the field of freedom of thought, freedom of media, academic freedom, etc. Then you can discuss issues in a very open manner. Second issue, which we have to address, is to establish a trust. First, absence of fear. Second is trust to the system. People today do not have trust to judicial system or to governmental system, building a trust. Third, justice, rule of law. Once you are being called to the police station or to the court, you should not be scared if you are not guilty. But today, many people, even at their home, they feel that anytime they can face an accusation. This is the problem. Then next is political ethics. Political ethics. And of course, with all this structural change, you can create a new reform in economic life. Economy is in an ecosystem. Economy, in that sense, should be restructured, reformed, based in their linkage with politics, law, ethics, and everything. So there is a change, there is a need of change in a full comprehensive change towards inclusive democracy, which I call.
Well, speaking of revolutionary thinking, the need for revolutionary thinking, I want to talk about an issue which, in my opinion, could use some revolutionary thinking, and that's the Kurdish question. I think it remains one of the greatest obstacles to democratic consolidation in Turkey. And the government launched 2 Kurdish openings. You were the foreign minister and later the prime minister at the time. And those openings failed miserably. So what are the lessons you have drawn from those failures? If you were to become the president, what would you do differently to make sure the opening succeeds?
And it is very interesting. Last week, I had 2 sessions, Zoom sessions. One was with intellectuals, journalists, basically from Kurdish origin in Turkey, in Diyarbakir, DİTAM organization. They were always critical to us, to me personally, and we had a very lengthy and very fruitful discussion. Secondly, by DPI in London, again, more Kurdish origin intellectuals, academic institution. There I also shared my views. In that sense, just to clarify the first issue itself, before going to the less assessment, we should know the sociological character of Kurdish origin citizens in Turkey. We are not like Iraq. We are not like Syria. In Iraq, basically Kurdish population are in the north, concentrated in the north, and in Basra or Baghdad, you have very minor Kurdish presence. In Syria, same. In northeastern Syria, you have a Kurdish population, but the rest, very minor. But in Turkey, Kurdish population are integrated everywhere. And today, if you ask me, which city is the city of Kurdish speaking, the biggest Kurdish speaking city is not Diyarbakir or not Erbil. The biggest Kurdish speaking city is Istanbul. So we are not facing a regional issue in Turkey. We are not facing just a segment of the society, and mixed, the mixed marriages are very high. So what is, from that point, how we should go? Yes, I supported solution process, what we call, in 2013. I was chief advisor 2005, the Diyarbakir speech by Erdogan. I supported, and I was one of the persons who wrote that speech, contributed to that speech. And in 2013, I was Minister of Foreign Affairs again. Although I was minister, I went to Diyarbakir and I supported solution process. And I also had special relations with KRG. All of KRG leaders know me very well. And in 2008, when Turkish KRG relations were almost cut off, I went to Erbil and to Baghdad and to reestablish this relation with KRG, with Mesut Barzani, Celal Talabani, and Turkey as chief advisor, like some sort of conflict resolution mechanism. And 2013, I was Minister of Foreign Affairs. Again, I supported. When I became Prime Minister, I supported and I did everything for the success of solution process.
Why do you think it failed?
It failed because of PKK's not fulfilling their promises to withdraw armed groups, terrorists from Turkey. In 2013, the agreement was based on that PKK would pull out of Turkey all the armed groups in June 2013. That was the main agreement.
But yes, they were expecting the government to hold its end of the deal, which was to start.
No, this is not case. The agreement, we know, everybody knows, all the observer knows very well that the agreement was 2013 June. All the armed groups were pulled out. They would be in Iraq. It was not full dissolution of PKK, but it was the beginning of the process. And we supported that. But what happened in 2013, in my new book, I analyzed in details. The turning point of many things is 2013 summer. Mm-hmm. Before that, there was a rising democracy in the Middle East. In general, there was an elected president in Tunisia, in Libya, in Egypt, in Yemen, everywhere. And in Turkey, that was the peak of democratic transformation with solution process. But 2013, three things happened which affected the Middle East in general and Turkey in particular. One is the coup d'etat in Egypt, so that the Arab Spring has changed the character from democratic transformation to revival autocracies and emergence of terrorist groups. Secondly, the emergence of Daesh as a terrorist organization. And third is use of chemical weapons by Syrian regime without any punishment. These three issues give a signal to the region that democracies will not come, the autocracies will come back, like Sisi in Egypt. And there is a terrorist threat, Daesh, not only a risk in Iraq, but a risk against Kurdish people in Iraq, Syria, and against Turkey. Mm-hmm. And that, and also Syrian regime became almost legitimized because there was no punishment despite of a criminal act according to international law using chemical weapons. So PKK misinterpreted this mm-hmm. as if now the proper method is fighting rather than making a peace. Mm-hmm. Therefore, they didn't pull out their militia, their terrorist groups. Instead of that, inside Turkey, they tried to dig the roads, block the ways, control the small cities like Cizre, like Şırnak or Silopi, etc., and also even in the center of Diyarbakir. And there was an absence of public order. In my political life, Gönül Hanım, I never used state authority. I always said public order. Public order is the order of everybody. Kurdish, Turkish, Alevite, Sunni, Muslim, Christian. State authority means state. Whoever holds the state is implementing authority. Now, when I became prime minister, I realized there were illegal courts organized by PKK, calling people to the mountains and punishing them. There were illegal collecting taxes, preventing, even there was an illegal mayor next to the elected mayor. So this was not what we aimed at solution process. But this is the experience. And now what I learned, when they killed two policemen in Ceylanpınar, and when they declared war, military, armed fighting against Turkey, after 7th of June election, we had to start an operation to restore public order. Now, what I learned out of these, as person, without public order, you cannot have any mediation, any peace, anything. Public order must be preserved. But that public order should be a democratic public order, not an authoritarian, autocratic public order. Democratic public order means open to dialogue, talking each other, respecting civil society, acting very firmly against armed groups, but acting very democratically towards civil society. Now, this is what we need. I can say a new approach to Kurdish issue, how you refer it. The first and the comprehensive aspect is full democratization of Turkey. Without full democratization of Turkey, neither Turks nor Kurds, neither Sunnis nor Shiites or Alevites could have any solution to any process. Today, many political segments are under pressure. Our Gelecek Party, I can say you, that the most inclusive and participatory political party in Turkish democracy. First time ever in Turkish Future Party, in our party, non-Christians, Armenian, Greek, and Assyrian Christians are founders of a party. In almost 100 years of Turkish Republic, this is the first time Christians became founding member of a party. First time ever, a leading Christian intellectual, an Armenian, especially an Armenian leading intellectual, my close friend, Etienne Mahçupyan, became deputy chairman of a political party. First time ever, the chairman of the biggest Alevite organization in Turkey became deputy chairman of a party, together with leading Sunni deputies, and also leading Kurdish intellectuals like Vahdettin İnce, or politicians like Mustafa Bilgen, many others became founder. Why I'm saying this? What we need is a comprehensive democratic transformation first. Without that, you cannot refer to any issue of Kurdish or Alevites. Alevites have their own problems as well. Second is special issues to Kurdish population, special issues like respect to Kurdish language. Mm-hmm. That is in our program, party program. Kurdish language, like other languages in Turkey, are the authentic languages of this country.
What about decentralization, some form of federation? What would you say on that?
That is, when I became chief advisor, in 2003, one of the basic responsibility was foreign policy. The second one was public administration reform. But I was very busy in foreign policy. Ömer Dinçer, who was the chairman of the board of Şehir University and former minister of education, he was in charge of decentralization and public administration reform. And it was a great success. Therefore, Ömer Bey was attacked by all the status quo-oriented people. We made a huge reform there. But again, what we learned from the lesson, without proper political maturity, you cannot implement this. Everybody knows in Diyarbakır, in Mardin, in Van, everywhere, the mayors during that solution process time, there was one mayor, elected mayor, who is accountable legally, but there was someone, his driver or his servant, appointed by Kandi, by PKK, but that mayor, elected mayor, was asking everything to him to be decided. So this is not decentralization. Therefore, I say public order. So elected mayors or the elected provincial administrations, they have to have their autonomy, not only from central authority, but also from Kandil or any other organization. Without having such a municipal administration, it is difficult to make this decentralization, because decentralization does not mean giving up rule of order. Decentralization does not mean giving the authority to an unknown circles of a terrorist group. And decentralization does not mean, like in Syria, you will have cantons and there will be no accountability, and you will, in Syria, even the opponent Kurdish groups were oppressed by PKK. So therefore, we are in favor of EU standard decentralization, basic EU regulations. We agree with that, with a proper public order understanding.
So you spoke about the inclusiveness of your new party. So final question on this topic, and if you could answer very briefly, would you be open to a coalition with HDP?
In principle, I say I am against this type of alliances in this system. Alliances in this system distorted the characters of political parties. Like AK Party today is more MHP rather than real AK Party 5 years ago. And even MHP, many of them are, they are being disturbed by corruption and others, but their character has also changed. So therefore, our first aim now, Gönül Hanım, is to establish our party in an inclusive way. But when I was prime minister in 2015, and when I didn't have my majority in the parliament, when I started coalition negotiations, despite of some reservations from my own party, I went to HDP headquarters and I spoke with them. I accepted Selahattin Demirtas in my office as prime minister. That was first time ever. So I do not mind to talk anyone.
I mean, you can forming a coalition, and this requires
forming a coalition is not possible in this government, in this system. In this system, what is possible, what is alliance. Coalition is more in parliamentary system.
Sorry, alliance, I meant.
Alliance. Yeah, this system of alliance, I disagree.
I'm so sorry. To my viewers, I didn't mean coalition, I meant alliance, sure.
Yes. In principle, we are against this mechanism of alliance because it creates a polarization. And that polarization, in fact, is harming democracy. Therefore, when we established our party, we said that we will change the Cold War politics in Turkey. One is Cumhur Alliance, the other one is Millet Alliance. It is like Cold War. We will change these. Mm-hmm. But having a dialogue, talking to every political party, we are open to every political party. But we expect, of course, from HDP to put a distance between them as a political party and PKK as a terrorist organization. Whenever they make a progress in that will be in their interest, in the interest of Turkish democracy, in their interest as a political party. So they have to be more open and more integrated to general Turkish society, rather than focusing only to a linkage to Öcalan or PKK, to Kandil or İmralı. Their authority, decision-making process should be on their own, not by others. That I lived myself. I mean, not comparable, of course, but I was chairman of a party, but the decision was taken somewhere, so I didn't accept this. There should not be two different parallel structures, what we call even before forfeiture. Now it is time to normalize politics. It is time to normalize political parties. It is time to have normal relations with all political actors in the country. And we are ready to have that relation with everybody, everybody, regardless of any prejudice.
Well, jumping to foreign policy, your Syria policy has been criticized very often. Some argued that it was your ideology that clouded your judgment, that you failed to read the developments on the ground. So if you had to do it all over again, if you had just returned from that last meeting with Assad in August of 2011, after which you decided to officially become part of the anti-Assad camp, is there anything you would do differently today?
First of all, of course, I had to respond to these judgments. Many of them, these judgments are not true, correct, not historically right. First of all, I never used ideology as an instrument in foreign policy. If I used it, some people say we have supported Muslim Brotherhood. We supported democratically elected presidents or governments, never Muslim Brotherhood.
What about in Syria, the Muslim Brotherhood?
No, never. If we had an ideological position against Syrian regime, we wouldn't support Syrian regime until 2011 because the same Syrian regime was there. Bashar Assad was the same Bashar Assad. He was Nusayri.
I may briefly interrupt. You were writing for Yeni Şafak in the 1990s, and I remember reading one of your columns arguing you do not regard the regimes in the Arab world legitimate because you saw them, just like you've seen the Kemalists illegitimate, they are detached from their people, from the pious masses, so they're not legitimate. But we have to work with them until a popular uprising brings them down. So maybe before 2011, you were applying that logic.
Yeah, no, I wrote in Strategic Depth, 1999, 2009 it was published. Yes, you are right. I underlined that Arab regimes are products of Cold War politics, and therefore they are legal and legitimate different, but their legitimacy is not strong. And one day, Arab regimes should be changed, like the regimes in Eastern Europe. That was my academic analysis 20 years before, almost 20 years before Arab Spring. Yes, and I said there will be a wave of change in Arab regime. These Arab regimes without a legitimacy, a strong legitimacy, could not survive. But it doesn't mean that you will be declaring war against these regimes. It is their domestic politics. It was an academic analysis. But when I became chief advisor, first time I went to Syria before war in Iraq in February 2003. From that time until 2011, I went to Damascus more than 50 times. And every time I met Bashar Assad. And we never used ideology as a means of diplomacy. Similarly, it was an interesting experience. A delegation came to Turkey in 2013 summer. They are all my very close friends. Still, I am talking to them, just trying to convince us that coup in Egypt was legitimate, and Sisi is a good man. Morsi was a member of Muslim Brotherhood, so we should not be supporting Muslim Brotherhood, Ikhwan. We should support Sisi. And there should not be a crisis between Turkey and the new coup regime in Egypt in 2013, July. The chairman of the delegation was Iyad Allawi, former Iraqi prime minister, and Fuad Sinora, former prime minister of Lebanon, was there. Former prime minister, Jordanian prime minister was there. Amr Moussa was there, just to try to convince Turkey not to criticize coup in Egypt and not to be with Muslim Brotherhood. I asked a question to them, first to Iyad Allawi. He is my very close friend. I am still in touch with him. I told him, Iyad Bey, we called each other Bey, as you know. When you won the election in 2009 in Iraq, who supported you? He said, Turkey supported, and you personally supported us. I said, were you a member of Muslim Brotherhood? No. Were you a Sunni? No. Were you a religious Shiite? No. You were a secular Shiite. But we were saying that you won the election, not Maliki. Therefore, we supported you, not because of your religious orientation, not because of your ideology.
But didn't you support the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, Morsi's campaign, even before Morsi was elected?
Let me. Then I turned to Fuad Sinora. He's my very close friend. I told him, Fuad Bey, when Hezbollah surrounded your palace in 2008 and in 2010, who came to you to support you? He said, Turkey and you. I said, were you a member of Muslim Brotherhood? No. You were a secular Sunni, but you won the election, not Hezbollah or others. Gönül Hanım, as a person, I respect all democratically elected people. I was born in 1960. My father was supporting Menderes, and he was oppressed. I was in 1959. In 1960, when I was 1 year old, there was a coup. From that time until today, I was always against coup. Whoever comes with coup, I'm against. Religious, secular, leftist, rightist coup, not important. This is the basic difference of point.
But
Morsi, we had good relations with Morsi, yes, because he was an elected president.
Before he was elected, though, I mean, didn't you share?
No. Whenever I went to as Minister of Foreign Affairs, before the election, whenever I went there, everybody knows that I met with everyone. Ayman Noor, I met. I visited Christian Coptic churches. I visited everybody. I never made any difference. All Egyptians are our friends. Egyptian nationalists or Egyptian liberals, I met with all of them. I was meeting with President Mubarak and his administration. I know everybody. So we never made, but whenever after the election, yes, I went there and we declared support to Morsi. I told to Amr Moussa in that meeting, I said, if you won the election, I knew Amr Moussa 20 years before Morsi. I haven't met Morsi until he became president. So this is, today even this should be our position. To our surprise, unfortunately, Western democratic states did not support democracy, new democracies in the region. They didn't only support Egyptian new president, but also they didn't help Syrian peaceful democratic opposition properly. They didn't support in Libya and many other places. Even today, in Libya, National Accord government recognized by UN was not supported by some democratic European countries. This is the main problem in Syria or in Libya or in the region. We never used ideology as an instrument. That's my final. If I used ideology, I wouldn't be developing best relations with Serbia. My relation with Serbian leaders were excellent with President Tadic. And I was the mediator between President Tadic and Haris Silajic in 2010. And we resolved all pending issues between Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. If I was, we were using ideology, I wouldn't be the mediator between Syrian regime and Israel, between Bashar Assad and Ehud Olmert in 2008. For me, most important is establishing peace. Neither Assad was Ikhwan, nor Ehud Olmert was Hamas or others. But we wanted to have a peace between Syria and Israel. If that was achieved, unfortunately, US and others didn't support that process properly. Today, we would be having a different Middle East. So our vision of Middle East is a new, peaceful regional order.
So what about Syria? What would you do differently today? Or would you do anything different?
No, we did our best. But we had different phases. First phase is to develop with Syria such a good relation so that Syria would be integrated to Turkey and through Turkey to Western democracies rather than to Iran or other. At that time, for Syria, Turkish option was better than other options. And we developed our relations despite of the reservations by our allies in the West, by US especially. But when Arab Spring started, second phase started from January 2011 to August 2011, my last visit to Damascus. 8 months, we tried to convince Syrian regime not to use army against people, not to use violence, not to attack people, but to make reforms. But when they started to use, at that time, US, Britain, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and many others, they were criticizing us because of our relation with Syrian regime, and they were saying that Syrian regime is illegal. We tried our best. Then we joined with with our allies. When we realized that there is no hope for change in Syria, in Bashar Assad's attitude, we acted against them. Surprisingly, later, those who were criticizing us because we have good relations with Syria, they changed their position to have relations with Syria, with Syrian regime. So Friends of Syria group we established, etc. This is the third phase when we had problems with Syrian regime, when Syrian regime forced Syrian citizens to come to Turkey, millions of them as refugees, and attacking and using chemical weapons against civilians. This is the challenge. In all these aspects, we did our best not to have a crisis in Syria, to control the crisis in Syria, and to protect civilians. Nobody can criticize Turkey or me when we hosted millions of Syrians without any problem, without any help from anyone. So it is not an issue to apologize. It is an issue to be proud of. We should blame first to Bashar Assad because of his crimes. Second, to UN system because of their passivity against these crimes against humanity using chemical weapons. Third, those democratic allies who did not support new democratic systems in region, etc. And of course, terrorist groups, Daesh and others, we should have worked together against them as in an efficient manner.
Okay, I have a Libya question, but I would like to incorporate, cover two questions from the audience that we haven't covered. A follow-up question from Ellen Markowski, who says, he just wants you to clarify whether you think the closure of Gulen-linked universities were just or not. And he has a second question, which is, as President of Turkey, would you seek to abolish the laws, the hakaret laws, the laws that punish criticizing the president? Yeah, so if you could please briefly answer that. And I have one more question from the audience that we haven't covered.
In principle, I am against shutting down the universities, but at the same time, universities should not be base for illegal activities. And this FETÖ group, they they committed a big crime against Turkish people, against Turkish democracy. 15th of July night, I was on TVs, national and international TVs. All of those who are now with me in Future Party, they were in the streets to defend democracy. We were defending democracy, not one person, not one party. And if needed today, we will do the same. Therefore, we were very vocal against FETÖ. Now we are vocal against any autocratic system in Turkey by Erdogan or by anyone. We are defending democracy. So the linkage between these universities and this group, as it was after my resignation, they are shut down, but I don't know the real linkages, the judicial processes, whether it was properly linked or not. But at the end of the day, FETÖ organization in itself is an illegal, illegitimate, criminal organization linking with certain coup d'etat attempt people in military, in police. This is basically to defend democracy. And today our purpose is to defending democracy. About the law criticizing president, you know, yesterday I was with Fatih Altaylı, you know, in Habertürk. Throughout his career as a journalist, he criticized me very harshly. Yesterday, when he started at the beginning of his interview, he said, I criticize Prime Minister Davutoğlu everywhere, every time. But he never, changed his attitude. He never accused me. He never went to the court, or he never called my boss and asking him anything against me. He was always tolerant to me because I was a columnist as well in 1990s, as you made reference. I am an intellectual. I am against any limitation in freedom of thought. If there is an insult, recently, for example, there was an insult against the daughter of President Erdogan. When Şehir University was shut down, same day there was such an insult, I defended daughter of president. Similarly, I defended wife of Demirtas, Selahattin Demirtas, Başak Demirtas. Same day, when she was insulted by certain people, I defended, and I not only defended, I called with my wife, Başak Hanım, together with my wife, Sara Hanım, we called Başak Hanım, and I told her, yes, your husband criticized me, and he was my rival, but you are a respected Turkish citizen and lady. If there is any attack to you, if there is any insult, be sure that we are with you. Anytime you can call me. So insult, we have to differentiate. Here, the problem is sometimes a normal criticism being seen as an insult. Mm-hmm. This February, there were certain insults against me and certain things, normal legal procedure. I gave up all the court cases. Even an attack, an organized attack attempt against my home when I was overseas by a group, I forgave everything. There should be a new political climate to change this attitude. Everybody can criticize political leaders, but this should be done without insult, without any insult to ladies, especially what I mean. This is unacceptable.
So one question, Henri Barkey is asking if you could please speak about the July 2016 coup attempt. And he asks, do you think that Gülen is the only force behind it? How do you explain the fact that hundreds of generals were kicked out of the military? Were they all Gülenists? So that's his question. So
many of them are Gülen. Many of them are Gülen people. We had certain intelligence report before as well, and later. I don't know how it was checked after coup d'etat attempt. I was not in government. But those who claim that it was not organized by Gülen, I think it is not true. They themselves made certain references before coup attempt. Some of their spokespersons declared 1 month before that there will be a change in Turkey. And their preparations, their linkages, so there is no doubt about it.
So we have a few minutes. What is your take on Turkey's Libya policy?
I support it, as I said. First, why do I support? First is for the stability in Libya. UN recognizing Libya National Accord government, Sarraj government. So there is a government there. Mm-hmm. And nobody should compare this with Syrian government. Syrian government used chemical weapons, and international community does not recognize Syrian regime in that sense as legitimate. But in Libya, there is a government, National Accord government. And in several international meetings, that government was recognized as the only legitimate government. And everybody should support that. And there is the other side, General Haftar, is a very suspicious person in the sense of his political background. And all those who are supporting him, supporting for different national interests, not for the sake of unity of Libya or for the sake of democracy in Libya. If Haftar becomes leader in Libya, he will be another Gaddafi, even worse. Mm. Nobody can guarantee a democratically elected, democratically feasible Libya. But we know Sarraj, I mean, in the sense of international community, he's one of the equals. He's not like General Haftar, General Sarraj, or no. So now how to restore order in Libya? Stability of Libya is important for everybody. Mm-hmm. Then we have to support National Accord government. And in that sense, of course, Turkey has the right choices, and international community also supports that. Mm-hmm. Who is supporting Haftar? Russia, Egypt, UAE, and France. But what is the legitimacy of that support? When Haftar was moving towards Tripoli, they were all silent. When Haftar started to be defeated, suddenly they woke up and accusing Turkey and others. This is not wise. This is not proper. I disagree with the existing government policy, foreign policy also in Turkey. But there is a legitimacy of having relations with Libyan Accord government. Secondly, Eastern Mediterranean, or in general Mediterranean policy in of Turkey, yes, Turkey has the longest coast in Mediterranean without islands. The longest coast belongs to Turkey. But some circles in EU, Greece, Egypt, Israel, they want to have Turkey without having any access to Mediterranean. Just a touristic Mediterranean country having access to the base of Antalya Bay, swim there, but don't say anything on nature resources, neither in Mediterranean or in Aegean Sea. Be a landlocked country. No, this is not proper. This is not according to the rule of international sea. And this is impossible to be implemented. And in that sense, Turkish-Libyan cooperation is strategically became a must. Instead of isolating Turkey in Mediterranean, it is better to integrate Turkey to all the processes in Mediterranean. Do not exclude. And Turkey should be, in that sense, should be seen as a stabilizing factor rather than this destabilizing factor. But without that understanding, it is not wise to accuse Turkey just from the angle of division of Mediterranean by certain powers and excluding Turkey. This is realistically impossible, legally not appropriate.
Well, Professor Davutoğlu, you have been very generous with your time. Thank you so much. This was a great
Most
discussion.
welcome.
We thank you very much for your time, and we hope to host you again.
I don't see the faces of other participants. I wish to see them as well. Many of them I know for decades, but best greetings to them all.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Most welcome.